AC's Roc Nation and the Roc Nation CEO Desiree Perez were just hit with a bombshell lawsuit. I'm sure by now you guys have all seen the interviews that have went super viral by Desiree Perez's daughter. Hadley, who filed this lawsuit against Desiree, Roc Nation, and more for civil conspiracy. And let me just tell you, this whole lawsuit and everything that she's released with video clips and everything is pretty crazy, so let's get into it. As you can see, Hadley filed this lawsuit against Desiree Perez, Roc Nation, and a whole bunch of people alleging civil conspiracy and a whole bunch of other crimes in this complaint. She starts this lawsuit out by saying, "This case gives the meaning to the phrase, you wouldn't believe it until you see it." The lawsuit is a bombshell that has a ton of allegations in it against Desiree Perez, Roc Nation, that have to do with Hadley, but also her husband, Hadley. Desiree's daughter alleges that Desiree Perez created an enterprise of individuals to effectuate her plot and used unlawful means to have Javon falsely arrested on 3 different occasions and Demore falsely detained under Florida's Baker Act and Marchman Act statuses. Fortunately, as detailed below, Desiree has a history of using illegal tactics to get her way, even if it requires her wearing rubber gloves and providing false information to authorities. Yes, this is a picture of her mother. Goes on to talk about how Desiree Perez is the CEO and part owner of Roc Nation under her belief, and she goes on to list all of this information about Roc Nation, how it was started by Jay-Z, and so on and so far. She says Desiree Perez as the CEO has an army of tech staff with access to the best technology that money can buy. Also has a team of attorneys and private investigators at her disposal. On to talk about how Desiree Perez participated in the federal trafficking activities in the 90s under her prior name, Desiree Reynoso. And yes, as you can see, she even adds in this court case from the United States District Court, the Southern District of Florida, against Desiree Perez with the date of September 18th of 1995, and it was conspiracy to distribute snow. Following Desiree's federal indictment and arrest, she was originally sentenced to 30 months imprisonment. However, Desiree became a confidential informant and provided information to federal law enforcement, which caused the government to file a motion eliminating her 30-month prison sentence, which she includes where this prison sentence was actually vacated by a judge. Demore alleged while she was engaged in the narcotic trafficking activities, Desiree gave birth to Demore in November of 1994. She alleges even after her birth, Desiree continued to engage in criminal conduct. Instance, local law enforcement arrested Desiree in April of 1996 for a slew of fraudulent criminal activities, including organized fraud, grand theft, and several counts of uttering a forged instrument. Adds all of these charges again of Desiree Perez getting in trouble for these crimes. When Desiree Perez got arrested on these state court charges, she had already been sentenced to federal prison, but was still out on bond. She goes on to claim, as shown on her federal probation affidavit, Desiree Perez later fled to New York while she was on probation and became a fugitive from justice. In March of 1998, New York officials arrested Desiree Perez for grand larceny, criminal use of paraphernalia, and criminal possession of a firearm. Desiree Perez pled guilty to this in New York State Court, but was only sentenced to a conditional discharge. And she even adds these records of this in here. Desiree was eventually sentenced to 9 months imprisonment for violating federal probation, choosing a life of crime over motherhood. Desiree dumped her infant daughter, Demore, on Demore's maternal grandfather, Julio, and his longtime partner, Olga. In 2002, almost fresh out of prison for her crimes, Desiree Perez somehow became the owner of the 40/40 Club in New York. When it comes to Jay-Z, this is one of Jay-Z's clubs that he used to own in New York City. It includes the records with Desiree Perez being listed as the owner of the 40/40 Club. Her daughter goes on to allege to the outside world, it appears that Desiree has turned her life around and became a successful CEO of Roc Nation. But secretly, Desiree continued to engage in acts exposing herself and others to both civil and criminal liability, which a state prosecutor noted in her closeout memorandum relating to Javon's fraudulent arrest, which is Demore's husband. She adds an excerpt. The victim's mother called a fake 911 call in December, which is a crime in and of itself, and reported the victim was getting kidnapped. The victim's mother also petitioned to have the victim Marchman acted, and the victim was Baker acted. The witnesses under oath ASA subpoena and ASA Farrell that the victim does not do illegal substances or drink. Marchman Act was voluntarily withdrawn on April 5th, the day that the defendant was arrested on this case. Victim then on April 16th of 2024 testified under oath. Now she starts to lay out all of the allegations and things that she is saying happened to her. As related to this lawsuit, Desiree conspired with others to illegally record the Hadleys in their bedroom, hacked Demore's iPhone, and unlawfully detained Hadleys on several occasions, which included false evidence against them. Candidly, it is difficult to imagine that a mother would do the acts listed below to her own child, but the screenshots included in this complaint prove otherwise. And y'all, I told you yesterday this is a long lawsuit, so we are going to break this down into parts. So go to part 2 where you can see all of the allegations start to be laid out in this lawsuit. Y'all, let me know what you guys think about.
I started seeing people in the comments were saying, oh my God, Nicki Minaj was right. And I believe that was the Bobs who were saying these kind of things. Listen, I don't think Nicki Minaj, in her position with her crimes as well and the things that she has been associated with, has the hand to even say anything at this point. Who is her husband again? And what happened with her husband again? Because people were saying, did Nicki Minaj lie? She's never told a lie. Really? Should we go over that? And how many times she has mentioned lies over and over again? Should we go over that? Because her fans seems to have amnesia. Often than not. So I'm with billionaires again. I really don't want to be involved because we know how their issues end. So, anyways, we'll see.